Russia, for the first time again, holds more gold than US dollars in international reserves. Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics on an exciting day in financial markets. I don't know, maybe I think they're all exciting, but certainly when you look at what's happening in governments, US, around the globe, COVID and Bitcoin going all over the place, silver going up, going down. I don't know. I think it's darn excited. I'm glad to be here with you today. So thanks for coming on in and other news that you will not hear reported on CNBC or on Wall Street, which is what we like to bring you here every day. And might add a good reason to hit that subscription button and the notification bell. Real quick, before we get started, today's video is brought to you by Silver Elephant. I've seen my friend John Lee on the show a bunch of times last year. He'll be coming back soon. And Silver Elephant, John's basically attempting to round up 300 million ounces of silver in the ground, which if he is successful, again, this is a junior silver miner, so it's still early in the game, but if he's successful, and Chris is right here, that silver is going to skyrocket one day. That's why I like it. Again, always like to be careful. I don't like telling other people what to do, investments or really any area of life, but just present the things I'm looking at, give you some information about these different companies where, at least if you are of the school of thought that silver is going to rise, then we bring them on so you can get more information and know what is best for you and your own personal situation. So thank you again, Silver Elephant. There will be a video linked to John at the end of this one if you'd like to find out more about that, which I would recommend you do, because along with silver, we also have this thing called gold that apparently trades like directly in tandem with silver. I mean, I know they're correlated, but they both seem to get spoofed up or down at the same time. And so today we will talk a little about gold, where interesting article from GATA, the Gold Antitrust Committee. My good friend Chris Powell sends these updates. I know a lot of you get them. And his sidekick, Bill Murphy, coming up on the show later this week, so you can look forward to that. And here mentioning Russia for the first time again holds more gold than US dollars in international reserves. Wait, I thought gold that the dollar was the safe haven and the treasury was the safe haven and it's the pin of the world. Although obviously for anyone who's ever heard Vladimir Putin talk, you know how he feels. And it's interesting, you don't get much coverage of that. In fact, I'm going to make a little note here to pull up some recent Putin speeches. It's been a while since I've heard him, although it's just stunning because the guy doesn't pull any punches. I remember I was writing an article for Miles Franklin a couple of years ago, and it was right after Russia had sold all of their treasuries. And then you saw this speech, which was dated a couple months earlier, where he was talking about how he's tired of the dollar bullying everyone around and that he wants to do something about it. So one of the few politicians that actually tells the truth, whether you like what he is doing or not. And in this case, you can see the shift is part of a broader strategy outlined by Vladimir Putin to de-dollarize the Russian economy and reduce its vulnerability to US sanctions and deteriorating relations with Washington. That sure is one way of phrasing it. But again, I don't know, I understand it's easy to say, well, the dollar has always been here, yet you can see what is happening if you want to look. I don't know when gold goes to this level or silver goes to that, but we can see here the reasons that will facilitate that. Just as in the same way I did not see, because unfortunately I was busy at Mickey Mouse Wharton MBA program where they teach Keynesian economics rather than the good stuff that GATA gives out here. I didn't see the signs prior to the housing bubble, but I found it was interesting that basically everybody that I was able to find who did forecast in advance, many of whom now appear on the show, they were talking about gold and silver, much like Putin. And for those same reasons, okay, I figured, well, right, these guys got it. Well, Ben Bernanke and the people I was learning from at Wharton and on Wall Street could not see it even after it imploded. So anyway, the signs are there. And like that great line in the beginning of the movie, The Big Short, it's there for anyone who wants to look. Now, I know that there's a lot of people who are frustrated hearing that, wonder when the prices are going to go up. Well, gold, it's already happened. Silver, it hasn't. So there's your advantage. It hasn't happened, so you can still buy cheap. I think it will one day. I think that day will be sooner than later. But again, why do I think that? Well, you can watch any episode of the show, but here is the latest reason. And I would suggest that China has a very similar view. So, I mean, these aren't those little small countries in South America that governments can just bully around. I mean, these major nations. So we will see how this shakes out, and be interesting times. And I'm fascinated to see how 2021 goes, and we'll report back on that one. Here's another one. You've probably seen some variation of this headline over the past week or two. Miners slide as strong dollar, rising yields weigh on gold. Strong dollar. I mean, while they're still in the process of printing 900 billion more of them. I don't know, because algos traded at a couple basis points higher. That's a strong dollar. But what I think you will see is this idea I was talking to a couple folks about today, that people are selling their gold because the yield on the 10-year is going up. Well, let's see how to phrase this one, because, you know, there's the one part of me that's like, wow, if someone's really selling their gold because the yield cracked 1%, even though we know the Fed's going to push it back down, seems a little bit hard to believe. Although then I remembered, wait a second, Chris, you were there, you were on Wall Street, you saw how these guys do it. And I have no doubt that there are algorithms, program trading, hedge funds that are selling gold based on correlations that their models are predicting. Yet, with that said, I would assert that you'd be hard pressed to find someone who sold some actual physical gold for that reason. GLD, sure. SLV, sure. Derivatives, sure. But maybe I don't know, we can ask Andy Schechtman about that when I talk with him tomorrow. So, are people actually selling gold? And at least as of last week was not the case. So again, there's multiple layers to all of these things, and you know, we'll keep an eye on it. But I'm sure you've seen a headline similar to that. And again, I mean, I can understand, you know, if it was like Paul Volcker was coming in and like, shit, the interest rates are really going to skyrocket now. I mean, but what are we at here? I think it was up to like 1.15 or 1.18 earlier this morning. Let's see the bond market. Where are you? Right, here we go. Okay, 1.129, 10-month high, no less. So keep in mind, the Fed has a 2% inflation mandate, which the TIPS, Treasury Inflation Protected Securities, which is basically another fraudulent Wall Street product, attempted to protect you against inflation. Even that's over 2% already. So still locking in a nice negative yield there, not to mention the counterparty risk of the government. And counterparty risk of the government, I mean, okay, it's the US government. Nothing could ever go wrong there, except things that happened in the past week that apparently I'm not supposed to talk about on certain social media platforms. So just leave that at that. Oh, here's a good one. Markets are looking everywhere for inflation as yields rise. Looking? Come get margaritas with me. In fact, I think I'm going to get some tacos for dinner tonight at the place where I got the 2 margaritas that came to $37 before tip last week. Maybe there's a derivative that could lock in. I wish there were margarita futures. So You could lock in some. I mean, maybe the $37 a couple of years from now at the rate the Fed is going will look good, but let's see what they're looking for on Wall Street. With rates rising quickly, markets are watching for any signs of inflation that could mean increasingly higher interest rates and ultimately a Fed policy reaction. Well, I don't know where they're going to find the signs of inflation. I mean, obviously, in this low inflation environment that the Fed is protecting us against, I don't know where you could find that. Definitely not. Actually, okay. I do know where you find it. That wasn't completely true. Let's get this thing out of here. You could look at Tesla stock. You could look at the home price index over the last 10 years. But CPI is expected to be up slightly, just 0.1%, excluding food and energy, and rise just 1.6% over year. It'd be fun to, these are the ideas I think of that probably are not likely to ever occur, but to get Jerome Powell hooked up to a lie detector test, see like if the thing starts smoking when they asked him to actually say some of these things out loud. Jeff Gundell, I do think inflation is a real game changer should it occur. That certainly is why rates are rising. Might mention that I remember writing about Jeff a couple of years ago when he started buying gold for his fund. And obviously an accomplished investor. I do think inflation is a real game changer should it occur. I will respectfully have a different opinion on that. And for what it's worth, a lot of people wonder, how come we haven't had this inflation that the Austrians have talked about? I would suggest that we've had plenty of inflation. I mean, things are clearly up more than 2% for anyone who buys anything. Although keep in mind, a lot of this inflation does get exported abroad. It's the United States' main export because we get products and we send the dollars abroad. But as you can see here, some of the foreign counterparties are getting sick of that. And I continue to expect there will be some break point at some point in time. I don't know when, although I guess it's kind of interesting. I mean, I get all these comments. I'm tired of the inflation. I don't want to wait anymore. It's never going to go up. And I can understand that. I can understand that feeling. I've felt that before. Although at the risk of offending most of the people watching here, as the time goes by, I keep thinking, gee, I hope they keep it down here a little longer. Again, I've had a non-standard career path, whereas working on Wall Street, then left for 2012 and started a business, which took me a while, but after going into debt to actually be able to continue to do this and then finally having things come together after a while, I'd personally love to continue buying gold and silver at these prices. Again, what allows me to be able to look at it that way is that, I mean, when I add all these things up, to me, I see where the end outcome is. Again, you got to make that decision for yourself. I can show you the data points that help me to get comfortable with that. But if you feel pretty confident about the end point, I don't know. That's just how I look at it. I mean, certainly seems a lot better than getting ticked off every time the price is down. Hey, if you're retired and you're living off your savings now and most of it's in gold and silver, then you're probably going to have a different perspective. Or if you had just walked out of a Wall Street trading job and everything that you had saved was in gold, silver, mining stocks, or options on miners, which I don't necessarily recommend to anyone, but did myself, then yes, you might want it to go up sooner. But I would say if you're out there and you have a business or an income, you're working, and look at the signs here, introducing the Silver Active Gator, your winter workout essential. So see signs everywhere. Silver is popping. I just take that as a good sign. In terms of some more tangible data on silver, here you can see the weekly transparent silver holdings. I haven't brought this up too much lately. You can see we had this record patch here to back out 20 years, so you can really see this is, I mean, here's where SLV begins back here. So you can see this, what we saw in 2020 was historic. Now let's go back here so we can see, you had those months there where things were wild, then a couple more big spikes. Here's some withdrawals flattish, maybe a little going in over the last month or so. So I just wanted to update you on that. Obviously, if there are some bigger events coming in there, we'll take a look. Quick look at gold, where again, you see a very similar pattern over the summer 2020 while Corona was being introduced to the world. You had a lot of inflows. And interesting, even, let's see here. Let us try the 6 month. And so even, yeah, it's fascinating. So this is into 2021 here. Actually, let us go to the 1 month. So here in January, despite the rising yield, doesn't seem like that much gold is coming out of these holdings yet. How much actual physical gold is in there? I mean, for the good of people and the planet, I hope that they do have the metal in there. I wouldn't take that chance risking it, but again, you know, you will have to make that decision for yourself. But in terms of other things that, well, we'll leave this one aside just to, we'll put that one back over there and come back to that. And stay on silver for a little bit. If I may pat myself on the head for a moment, every once in a while I get one of these right. So here was, this was Sunday night when you had the open in silver. Watch out below if silver price gets nudged under 25, because we saw, again, here was the open, that green line. And as I'm sure most of you remember, it was about $25.50. Then went down to $25, which was when I said, be careful, because it gets nudged a little bit. And then only about, what is, we have a screenshot, about 631 there. And then here at, let's see, do we have 722? There it is, 2456, 2460-ish. And you see it bounced up a little bit, but sure enough, came right back down there and then flew right through 50 cents lower in a very short period of time. And no, this wasn't, you know, any, I didn't have my Ouija board out. But again, the reason I said that was because A, we've seen it 8 million times. B, that's also what Bart Chilton very clearly described in the interview when I asked him about how the manipulation of these prices works. So anyway, you can spot some of these for yourself, and by all means, just look for the things out there. And I'm sure you guys see things that I don't see, and I appreciate some of you have sent things in, and thank you for that. So anyway, here's another interesting one. Since we have some mining stock news today, there's my good friend Jeff Clark. He got his Christmas present. Let's pull that up. He's got his looking sharp in his got silver shirt, hoodie, rather. And I wasn't just pulling up because of the hoodie, but I thought it was interesting. He posts that. Someone says, how about a top 5 silver stock list? Are you brave enough? Well, apparently he is, although he made it 6. So, but I thought just obviously Jeff Clark, very knowledgeable about silver and the silver stocks. So you might like to see his list. Again, not legal financial advice, but Jeff's opinion. Working on some new ones, but the ones I already own that I would not be surprised to see scream at $50 silver. You have Discovery Metals, Metallic Minerals, First Majestic Silver, GR Silver, that I think may be coming up on the show soon. Reina, you've seen Jorge a couple of times. And then Silver One, that I know many of you have mentioned and are familiar with. So again, not what you should go out and buy, but perhaps some suggestions of where further research to see if that matches what you are looking for. Couple other silver stocks with news. Here is Endeavor Silver, that fortunately is going to be coming up next week on the show, and you'll be able to learn a bit more about. And Endeavor last week reported the highest quarterly production in 2 years, over 1 million ounces of silver, 12,000 ounces of gold, 2.1 million ounces of silver equivalent. And you see their silver gold mines in Mexico. 2020 full year production met its original guidance, notwithstanding the government mandated 2-month suspension of operations due to the pandemic. And Brad Cook commented, Endeavor enjoyed its strongest operational performance in 2 years, thanks to the measures we initiated in 2019 to the mines that they have there. And I've not spoken with Brad yet, but I've spoken with the great Galena of Endeavor Silver, who gave me a nice walkthrough of the company 2 or 3 months ago. And certainly, if you like silver and you're looking for leverage on silver, seems like they have some interesting things going on there. And again, we will be having Brad coming up on the show next week. I believe it's next week. What is, yes, I believe that will be next week. So, find out more about Endeavor Silver. Also, a couple other silver companies that did a deal here this week. My friends at Minorum Gold, and it was nice. That's one of my stocks I've really been keeping an eye on. It got pointed out to me early on as one of the stocks that really has a lot of potential that people don't know about yet, which is a nice little situation to find when you do. And she talked with my good friend Sonny over there at Minorum on the day of their deal, where they were pleased to announce that Minorum, along with Fortuna Silver Mines and one of their subsidiaries, have entered into an option agreement pursuant to which CMC, which is the subsidiary here of Fortuna, can earn up to an 80% interest in Minorum's Tavish silver project. And we'll read just this paragraph here. And by the way, I think part of the reason why I love just silver as the commodity, it's more straightforward. Obviously, when you get into some of the silver stocks, these deals can get a little bit complex. And just one tip that I've found helpful for myself, just try and read some of these out loud. Don't worry if you understand all of the terms, but if you just do that over time, don't need to nail everything or get all the details, but the terms will start making sense. And perhaps a better strategy than feeling overwhelmed, which is my old way of handling certain things like that. But anyway, let's just take a quick look. Under the terms of the option agreement, CMC can earn a 60% interest in the project by making cash payments totaling $450,000 and incurring $4 million in work expenditures over 3 years. Upon earning the initial interest, Fortuna can then earn an additional 20% for a total 80% in the project by funding Minorum's acquisition by way of option exercise of the remaining 20% interest. Upon the acquiring the initial interest, parties will form a joint venture pursuant to which Minorum will retain a 20% interest. So, and there is my friend Daryl Rader that you saw on the show last year, who is excited to be partnering with Fortuna. So again, go check out Fortuna. I think that's one that many folks don't know about, but might be well served to, which is not legal financial advice. But there is the news with Minorum. And again, a company that I would suggest is worth a further look at. Now here, you can see I am not a Bloomberg subscriber, although we'll cover the article from a different source, but I just love this headline. If you can see at the bottom there, UBS lowers the threshold to charge depositors for negative rates. Just couldn't resist that one. Lowering the threshold to charge you to get a negative rate. UBS will begin charging clients with cash balances above 250,000 Swiss francs a 0.75% interest rate fee from July. It's becoming increasingly clear that we'll have to contend with negative interest rates for years to come. That's why we decided to lower the threshold for deposit fees. So I don't even know what to say about that one. Charging a fee to make sure you're getting negative interest, and maybe there's a connection to countries buying gold. I don't know for sure, but other reasons that people are losing faith here. We talked last week about Janet Yellen receiving $7 million for giving speeches to banks, but let's not leave out she failed to report her Wall Street speaking fees from JP Morgan and others in 2018. I mean, you know, JP and the gang would not want to be left out of this. Interesting section down here. We know Yellen has not fully disclosed her entanglement with Wall Street because page 8 asked her to list sources of compensation exceeding $5,000 a year. Under that heading, Yellen is JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Carlyle. In my book, The Bush Crime Family, they pop up a couple of times. And she states the source of income from those firms being a speaker. How much was Janet Yellen paid by 5-count felony firm of JP Morgan Chase as a matter of national interest and potential national security? I would agree with that. Considering that the Fed did not force out the bank's CEO, Jamie Dimon, as he presided over all 5 of those felony counts in a 6-year span. Bank admitted guilt to all 5 felonies. It's kind of weird that they're just allowed to continue going on doing business. Unfortunately, that's somewhat standard. And who knows, maybe when all this insanity happening in Washington clears out, hopefully one day we'll have something more honest where, you know, I try to keep the show positive as much as possible and focus on the solutions and silver. And I know it's not the easiest of times for people, and I'll just continue to hope that we end up with something better on the other side, which perhaps, here is the news of optimism. I am a musician, as I've mentioned many times on the show before. And Dr. Fauci is saying large concerts could return sometime in the fall of 2021. Well, that certainly couldn't happen soon enough. As many of you know, I was living in Denver for the past couple of years and then left, went up to Minnesota, then New Jersey, then came down here to Austin, where it's really the first time I've heard live music since the whole thing started. And again, I don't know, how likely is that to happen? I don't know, but I think just seeing a headline like that is a sign of good news. Actually, let's see what he said. Infectious disease expert weighed in on the state of live music. He said, if everything goes right, this will occur sometime in the fall of 2021, so that by the time we get to the early to mid fall, you can have people feeling safe performing on stage, as well as people in the audience. I think you can then start getting back to almost full capacity of seating. So doctor was quick to notice masks will be required for some time. But hey, anyway, we got some concerts coming. There is the good news. One last funny one that I could not resist. I think I mentioned I got my Masterclass pass. I was learning some singing from Christina Aguilera last night. And I couldn't let this, I guess I could let it slide, but it just kind of makes me chuckle. If anybody is in Masterclass, you can learn Paul Krugman version of economics. He is a Nobel Prize winner, growing income gap, and how recessions happen. I have this weird insecurity. Maybe it's from my childhood. We're being forced to study and seemingly know everything. So it's like, as much as I think I won't get much out of this one, I may brave it in there and listen to one or two just for the benefit, and I'll report back. But anyway, interesting Masterclass, and we have Keynesian economics. Maybe in some ways it's not surprise. The world is a little bit confused, but to counterbalance that, fortunately, here is the Arcadia Economics website. And again, in this time of challenges to the flow of freedom and information, we're really making an effort to help stay connected with people that are looking to stay connected with what's going on in an uncensored fashion. So here, if you'd like to hear from us directly, get these videos, that's where you can put your information completely free. And with that said, we're going to wrap up for today. But again, our sponsor was Silver Elephant, run by John Lee. And to find out a little bit more about his plan to round up 300 million ounces of silver in the ground, which certainly at a rising silver price would be great news, well, the explanation video that is coming your way now.